Okay, thank you everyone for coming to Valier for the September New England SiteCore user group. Looks like a really good crowd for our talk tonight. Couple of short announcements. Most important, restrooms are right around this. This is called Isengard. You know, you have to go around Isengard. Right down, there's a doorway right on the side. Go through the brown doorway, and then you have a men's room. Women's room, you should be all set.
Are they taking the hard side?
What's that? Okay, so second time, we do not have another meetup scheduled, so if anyone has anything that they'd like to present.
We do.
We do?
Actually, we do. So,
Okay,
yeah,
breaking news.
iSite Design will be hosting the meetup for October. Topic to be revealed. They were not available for comment when I asked them. But yeah, they own October. November will most likely be at Genuine Interactive, either by yours truly or one of my counterparts. So, and then typically for December, we hit SiteCore up and they buy the booze and usually pretty good food. So keep your eyes peeled.
But the restroom is still right around us. And then, okay, I want to introduce our speaker. Mike Reynolds has been developing in the SiteCore space since SiteCore 5.2. He has got the nickname hardest working blogger in SiteCore. He's passionately dedicated to the platform. I had the honor of working with him at my previous company, and there is no one who knows the insides and out. If you have to dive in and figure out how the clone API works, he's a good guy to be pairing up with. So his blog is covered. Just the topics are just way too numerous. I have them written down here. He's talked about creating in WordPress. You have, what are they called, short forms. He's figured out how to do that in SiteCore. Short codes. He's figured out how to build composite SiteCore commands. He goes through step by step, line by code, down to the screenshots at the end. And he wrote a topic on how to build an automated template reorganization command in the content editor, which hurts my head. And while we're on the topic of automation,
The robot is
Technical difficulties.
Okay, here's Mike in person. Okay.
He's a robot.
He's a robot.
So hey everybody, I'm Mike Reynolds. I'm from MedTouch. I'm a developer there. Build things in SiteCore. Build SiteCore modules all day long. It's the best job ever. So I'm here to talk about command line stuff. So what am I talking about? I'm not talking about things like DOS. I'm not talking about Unix. I'm talking about writing scripts. I'm talking about, you know, writing a bunch of different code together to do different, you know, compact things without having to do any code deploys or anything like that. Alistair Denny's, former SiteCore MVP from Australia, said it best. He says, scripting saves time. So why does it save time? Well, you can do bulk updates on items. So think about, you know, writing a single ASPX web form to like do all kinds of stuff. You have to build it, you have to like deploy it, you have to run it, and then things like blow up, and you have to go back, troubleshoot, debug, all that stuff. Well here, you know, look at this. You can write a script. You don't have to do any compilation. Just run it. If you see a problem, you go back, you change it. Very minimal updates. Just happens. And then boom, you just get it to work. So that's what I mean about saving time. Because when we save time, we save money. And that's the bottom line, you know. That's, at the end of the day, we have to pay bills, you know. And, you know, so I was thinking, all right, these aren't Benjamins. These are, what, Georgians? Anyways. Westians, no. Well, Benjamin Franklin, Georgian. Wouldn't it be Westian?
I don't know.
Anyways, technical, whatever. So, what are our options? Well, you have SQL. I hate hearing people talk about updating things in SiteCore using SQL. I think that's the worst possible thing unless you have to do it. I don't see why you would ever have to do it, but you know, there was something on Twitter recently that, hey, I have to like export passwords out of the membership databases. Well, maybe, but even then, I would say investigate some other kind of solution. You know, there's a rich API that we can use. You know, why would you go into the database and fudge around with it? You know, you're going to screw things up. You know, I'd rather just leave that alone. Don't even look at that as an option. I wasn't even going to put it on the slide, but Alistair Denny's did it at SiteCore Symposium in 2012 in Australia. I figured I would do due diligence and just do that. We also have SiteCore Rocks Query Analyzer. I'll be truthful, I have no idea how that works. I've never looked at it, don't even know. But today I'm going to talk about Revolver and SiteCore PowerShell extensions. All right, so Revolver It's the first one that I've looked at. And it was built by Alistair Dennis. He's a former SiteCore MVP from Australia. I don't know if he actually publicly announced this, but he joined SiteCore last week. He quit his job and he's going there actually next week. I asked him, I was kind of curious. I don't like prying, but actually I do like prying. Anyways, it was the first scripting module built for SiteCore. So pretty much he set in motion this whole, I wouldn't say paradigm shift, but he planted the seed saying, hey, we need to come up with some scripting capabilities for SiteCore. You know, I mean, other platforms might have it, but you know, we need to have something. So today it's open source. At one point it was 3,500 Australian dollars. And in American money, that's almost the same. So today it's free, that's great. You can change things around, I'll show you that later. And it also has a custom language that kind of looks like Unix. So for those that have a Unix background, you can like it, and a DOS background too. So let's take a look and see what it looks like. So it basically, you install it using a package. You don't have to do any config changes or anything like that. It just comes out of the box, starts working. And you have this nice little thing under development tools. You have Revolve. And it looks just like Unix. Look at that. You have UNLS. You can see, you know, what items are underneath the current item. So I'm on the SiteCore node right now. Each item is treated like a directory or folder. So I can actually go into things. You know, in Unix and SOS, you can do like a tab to kind of like autocomplete. It doesn't work here. Just let you know that up front. So I have page 1, page 2, and page 3. I can look at attributes on items. So if you don't pass in a path, it's going to use the current context item. So right now I'm on the home page. I can do this. What attributes do I have? I have ID, I have name, key, template ID. I can also get a specific one if I want. I can do this, and I can say I want to know what the ID is. There we go. I can get field data from current item. So I have all this stuff right here on my home page. And it also includes, you know, standard fields. You know, have renderings, have all this good stuff. I can also get a specific field if I want. Let's do this. Here we go. Welcome to the $sign name page. I'll show you what I'm going to do later with that. So right now, the most important command I think in Revolver right now is help. That'll give me a list of everything that's available. It's kind of like a man command in Unix. So I can get a list of all kinds of things that I can use here. And if I want to get specific information on a particular command, I can just do, you know, help RM. So help RM tells me, okay, RM deletes an item, including all of its children. Gives me all kinds of information here. I can pass in a path, it's optional. I can say, okay, I want to throw things directly into outer space, not into the receipt element if I do this. So also there's capabilities of creating items. One thing that's a little wacky is sometimes the UI gets a little out of sync, so sometimes you just have to press enter or do a clear just to get, you know, back to where you were. Sometimes you might end up over here, you don't want that because things get a little screwed up. Let's do this. So you can create an item by using the touch command. Do this. Example item. Then you pass in a name. Dan, do you remember if it takes a name parameter?
No, I think you just put it in the text. And wrap it in parentheses, it is not a space.
Right. So that when you want to use text that has a space in it, you wrap it in parentheses. It's kind of like I did right here for the template. And boom, create a test. Here it is. It lives. I created 2 tests. It lives right underneath home. Now I press enter twice. Oops. So also you can do some really interesting things with serialization. This actually existed before you had TDS or, you know, the serialization framework within SiteCore itself. So I can do GI, and it'll give me the current item is XML, and then I can say, hey, I want to put that in a file. So I can do echo, I can do f test.xml. Actually, let's call it home.xml to make it actually make sense. And I can. This is kind of like the pipe operator in Unix. Even though it's not really a pipe, it's a less than sign. And then I can put another command in here that will run first. You guys remember from math, you know, things that are within parentheses happen first before the things. It's the same idea. So I say, okay, boom, GI. And it was written to my temp folder in my website group in SiteCore. So I was there. Can everybody hear me?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So by default, if you don't specify a path, it will dump it in the temp folder. You can specify a path, but if it's outside the website root, you gotta give that whatever is running your app pool permission to write to that directory. I found that out the hard way. It just bombs out. So here we go. I have my home XML right here, and there's all kinds of stuff in here. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to actually rehydrate it somewhere else in the content tree. And that's what I was talking about right there. I was not where I wanted to be, and then you press enter and nothing happens. So do this, and then I go into page 2. And then I'm going to do touch, feed in XML, and then do echo input file name, what do I call it, home.xml. Boom. So actually, let's go look at that in the content editor. And then page 2, and there we go. I ended up rehydrating home underneath page 2. Not definitely a good idea for the home page, but I mean, you see what I'm getting at. You can actually take items, you can serialize them, and you can rehydrate them somewhere else. Sure, there are other tools that will work that way, but you know, keep in mind this came first.
Doesn't the item serialization include the item ID? Are there two items with the same item ID now?
What do you mean? No, it's gonna create a new item with a new ID. It's using the SiteCore API behind the scenes, which I'm not gonna show. I'd have to get that program. I'm not gonna do that. So there we go. Dan, do you have anything you want to share with us? Because I saw you digging into this very deeply.
Yes, yeah, no, this is great. And a couple things just on your point. You can pass a flag, I think -I, which will keep the IDs. So if you delete your home item and you want to restore it, you could use the -I to basically make everything come back with the same IDs. And then there's a recursive flag, which will keep the entire tree. So that's something that serialization won't do. You could take, if you have enough space on your hard drive, you could take your entire SiteCore site and recursively store it to a single XML file and then rehydrate it. So that might be very useful for recreating test data, for example, integration tests.
So actually, I'll demonstrate that right now. I'll put something recursively in a text file. And actually, you can press up and down. You can actually have an audit trail of different commands that you ran in the past, which is really useful, just like Unix and DOS, which is awesome. So I can do this, and I'm going to actually put it in a different file. So I actually don't know if it will append to it or it will overwrite it. I haven't tried that. So boom. Then I'm going to go into, let's see, page 1. Oops.
So this is just using the serialization API to do that?
No, it predates the serialization API. It's using basically to write whatever the API is to write XML format of items.
Interesting.
Yeah, it might be something custom.
There's actually a blog post where he says, "Oh, now SiteCore's coming out with serialization." Of course, we've been doing that with Revolver for about 6 months now.
Just run it. There we go. Oops, sorry. One over here. There we go. I cloned all home item, the home item and all of its children and descendants all the way down right there, just in one command. 2 commands actually. I had to put it in an XML file and then rehydrate it. So there we go.
Can you create custom commands?
You can only show that. Not yet. Just wait.
I love this.
All right, so
his eyes.
So I'll be truthful. I don't know how these all work. I have not tried them all. You know, you can get the working directory, which is PWD, which is just the current item path. You know, you can get you can actually do some string manipulations here. You can actually grab, like, let's say, a list of IDs that are separated by bytes, and you can add to that. There's a command that does that. There's a command that removes it as well. played around with that. I'm not sure that's right, but it's there. You know, basically, I'm just showing you that all these things are here for you to do manipulations if you have to. You can actually take these and you can save them into a script. And I'm going to show you that. I just went to the core database. That's where they do it.
This is why you need a scripting tool.
Yeah.
Watching this.
What does it do? There you go.
When you use Revolver in the core database, you just see these like,
Right.
then you can write scripts.
Oh, I've done that.
Yeah, you can change databases with the Revolver. So if I was on master, I can go to web, or I can go to core, or anywhere, and vice versa. I can be in core, and I can go back to master. I can write things in here. I don't recommend messing around with core unless you know. So you have a nice little modules directory here with Revolver, and in here we have scripts. It says over here it's online. So we have startup scripts which run when you open up Revolver. They get executed automatically depending on like the role, and roles are actually set on this thing here called startup. So we have something that's binding to everybody. It's actually not, you can't select the user from this or a role or anything like that. You actually put in the string value here, and you can separate it by commas. And then you can point to a script that you want to run, which, for this particular script, it actually goes in here, startup, set prompt. And that sets the prompt that you see when we're inside of Revolver. So I wrote a custom script, and actually this is a good segue into the custom commands, Tim. So I wrote a script called bind custom command, which actually binds a custom command that I built to show you guys. So this gets executed every time I start up Revolver. And I actually added this here to bind the every one row. And when that gets executed, it actually, you don't see it, the output, because I shut the output off. If you notice, I echo off and then I echo back on. It stops on error, so if something blows up, it just stops. All right, so custom commands. They all must implement this interface here called iCommand. I'm going to show you an example, but mine doesn't. Well, mine does implement iCommand, but I use the base command that Alistair wrote because actually there's a lot of useful things in it. I don't know everything that's in that base abstract command, but there's a lot of useful things that I need, like context database and things like that that I don't want to deal with. So I have custom command that will expand tokens on SiteCore items. Everybody knows what a token is, right? So you have $name. When you add that to standard values and you create a new instance of it, it will add the name of the item within whatever field you put it in. You can do that with ID. You can have parent ID and things like that. Sometimes if you create, let's say you create an item and it uses, it populated things that were in standard values before and then you added standard values later, that bleeds through to the existing content items. And you're like, all right, what do? I have to expand them somehow. So this kind of command could fulfill a requirement like that, where I have to expand them. Run a script, go through items, and expand things that weren't expanded before because they were added later. So this implements iCommand, which actually lives in revolver.core. I'm using the base command, which is a base class that Alistair wrote for all of his commands within Revolver. There's a lot of cool things on it, which I'm not going to actually talk about. Basically, bare minimum, you have to implement help. So you got to be helpful to your users. And this is abstract. It would be, you have to implement this. And also you have run. And run, as it says, will run the command and do things. So there is an object here that I saw in some of his classes called context switcher. I don't really understand what it does. I think it's important because it's in all of his commands. So I just reused it. So basically I checked to see if, hey, is the path being passed in, part of the path of what I'm, trying to execute this command on. Because Revolver also supports kind of like partial paths as well. So I can do, sort of like SiteCore content home, I can do content home. If it doesn't match that, then I return an error. You return a command result, and then you have an enum that has failure. Let the user know that something is wrong. Here, I'm not doing anything magical. I'm just using the basically the master variables replacer object that you can set in your web config in a setting. The factory class, which is in SiteCore.configuration, will create an instance of that. I put it here in just an instance variable, so I can reuse it. And I'm just making an item editable. I'm just passing it to it, and then I just stop. If I encounter an exception, I cancel the edit, and then I return the result. That's all I do. And the result will be a success or failure, and just returns back to Revolver. So I'm going to go back. And like I said, I actually wrote a custom command that actually will expand tokens recursively on items. So, I don't know if you noticed, but if you look in help, my custom command's right here. It shows up. So the help method that you have to implement, this is where it gets populated, and that shows the user like what this thing does. So you can ET content home. Expand tokens on the home item. Let's go see what that looks like. I have a $ name in the title field right here, and look at that. Welcome to the home page. I created my script is called ETR, which is for recursive. This is the name of the SiteCore item that's in the core database. It will look it up by name recursively. So boom, and say I'm going to actually pass in home again. And that did it on all these guys right here. Did it recursively on everything, all the way down. Let's just do that. I'm just going to put it on here. And boom, here we go. So that's Revolver. So I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is SiteCore PowerShell extensions. This is built by Adam Namanowicz, SiteCore MVP at Cognified in Poland. Basically, this is open source as well. It's just kind of like an interface of PowerShell, which is built into Windows, into SiteCore. It installs as a package. One package install, you don't have to do anything special, no configuration things, nothing. And it just magically starts working because PowerShell is built in Windows. And it gives you access to the SiteCore API and the .NET API as well. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So this module has a lot of moving parts to it. So you have the PowerShell console, which I'll be honest, I haven't really used it that much because I had some problems with it. I fell in love with something called the integrated scripting environment, and I'll show you that after this stops loading. I'll just kidding. So we have the PowerShell integrated scripting environment. You have a context item that you can use. So I'm using my home item. So I have some things filled out here because I can't remember everything. So the way commands work in PowerShell is that things start off with a verb, and then they end with a noun, and they're separated by hyphen. So get verb will give me all the verbs that are available within this system. I just want to point out also that if you highlight a command, you press Control Enter, you get a help window of that command. Evidently not this one. There we go. So this will give me some help information about this particular command that I highlighted and did Control Enter on. I can see, what does it take in for input? What can I do with it? What is it all about? This works for most PowerShell commands. I think actually you don't have to actually fill this out when you build your own custom commands, so this could be empty at times. I've seen that, and I was very sad when I saw that on something. Anyways, I'm going to look at get verb. Get verb will give me all the verbs that are available in this system. So I do Control E for execute, and I actually comment that out. Control E. That gives me a list of all the verbs that are available. And then I can say, hey, you know, I want to see all the commands that are available for get, for the get bird. So you go boom, boom. So it gives me a list of all the commands that start with get. So some of these are built into Windows, others were added by Adam and his team for this module. But I'm not going to search for anything. There's also something really cool here. You can do get hyphen, and then I can do control space, and I get a context auto dropdown that says, hey, this is available for any command starting with get hyphen, and then I can select things. And if you're like, hey, I don't know what this does, so like press enter and do that, and do boom, and I can get help information on this. This is an example of something that's not helpful, but it's there. So here, you can get items based on a path or the current context item, which is represented by the dot. So the current item that I'm on is home, which is right here. So do that, execute. And I have the home item right here. I have all of its fields. I can see values inside of it, renderings, all that good stuff. So if you want to chain things together, use a pipe here just like you would in Unix. I'm actually not going to show this. This is, actually maybe I could show this now. I'm first going to wait. It's a teaser. So here's an example of, I can create a new item right here using this command, new item, which is actually part of the SPE module. So I'm going to create a new item underneath home with the sample item template called my test. And there we go, here's my test. I put in my test here. I think I had the $sign name on standard values. I also can remove my test. And I'm going to create my test yet again, but I'm going to change the title field here. So what I'm doing is I create the item here, and then I pipe it into this nice little syntactical sugar way of setting fields on an item. Or you can actually set this on any object within PowerShell. I don't really understand how this works. I actually couldn't figure out how to set multiple properties on an object. I only can figure out how to do it for one, but it's here. There you go. This is my card. Delete it. Bye-bye. All right, so I need to actually put in some token. Oh, I deleted it, sorry. So here, you also have the ability to build functions, which are kind of like scripts, and you can save them in a place that you can access them later. So here, I'm actually going to show you, I created a function earlier, a couple days ago, that actually lives in the master database here, in script libraries. I call it expand-sc tokens. And that will just expand tokens on items for a given path that you pass into it. I'm going to take this up and put this in Notepad so that we can see it. So basically, we have some help information here that I added. Michael West did a video series that was very helpful in seeing this. He did this in his video. It was really cool. I think this gets pulled in when you actually run the get commands, and you can see information about it. So here I do a command binding. I don't really understand what this does, but I saw that it was important. But I think it has something to do with getting these attributes to work. So I can say I want this particular parameter to not be null, when it's passed to me. And I also need this to have the ability to be piped into another command, and that's what this means. Thank you to Adam Naimonovich for helping me with this, because I had no idea what I was doing. So basically I'm just doing, kind of like the same thing that I was doing over in Revolver. I'm calling the factory class, and then I'm calling the static method, get master variables replacer. To call a static method on a class, you use the double colon right here. It's kind of like, I don't know if anybody has any experience with C++, but I think this is the C++ way of doing things. I don't know why it's done that way, but that's just part of the language. So I create an instance of the master variables replacer class. I pass in my item that's passed from as a parameter, and then I give some useful information saying, hey, I expanded tokens on this guy. If it bombs out, then I cancel the edit, and then I say, sorry, and here's the problem why. It's in this is a global variable in PowerShell, and it will show you some exception information, which is really cool. So to run this, you actually have to run a command to get it within, I guess, within the current namespace, or whatever you want to call this window. So you could call execute script, which will run it, and it'll just define it, just like in JavaScript. It's like an include file. And then here, I'm getting the current item, I'm adding it to an array, then I'm getting all children, or recursively, so all descendants really, and I'm adding that to the array, so this gives me one big array of stuff. And I pipe that into for each object, which is really like a syntactical way of looping over a collection. And then I'm gonna pass it to my function, and this is the current object. It's kind of like, the object that's within the for loop. So let's run it and see what happens. And there we go. It ran it on all of these guys right here. Not all of them had tokens in them. I think only the home page did at the time, because I added it. Then boom. Here's my home page item with an ID of whatever the home page ID is, which is right there. So, I guess the next question is, can we build custom commands for it? Sure you can. So I built a custom command that does the same thing. It expands tokens. So basically, I am inheriting from the base command that Adam Naimonovich built. This in turn also implements or inherits from a PowerShell command that's built into the .NET library. I don't understand how all this works, but I don't have to, because a lot of this was already, things were put into place for me, and it just makes it easier. So here, so I have a help, and I have run. I actually think I showed you the run class when I was looking at Revolver. So this is the PowerShell class right here. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. So this is the PowerShell class right here, sorry. So I create an instance of the master variables replacer class right here, just as an instance variable within this class. Here's my parameter that passed in. It gets hydrated by the base class magically. I don't have to worry about it. I start editing, then I do a replace, then I end on exception, I cancel, and I throw the exception back to the PowerShell so that it will display it within the output window. And it will show you it